exactly what we have here. In your dreams. Watch this, everyone. I spy a corpse.
Alright, my lovely yaoi fangirls and fanboys, it's time to take a look at one of the most popular child units in Fates. This lovely little lady may appear pure and innocent on the outside, but in reality, she is probably one of the most perverted girls in the series. Today, we are taking a look at the daydreaming scoundrel, Nina.
Ready and willing.
Nina is the daughter of Niles, and that pretty much tells you everything you need to know right there. As with all the other child characters in Fates, she grew up alone in the Deep Realms for her own safety, seeing as her father was busy fighting in a war. Due to a demanding, hectic schedule, combined with the fact that time passes much quicker in the Deep Realms, Niles seldom came by to visit Nina, and thus she grew up feeling neglected and unwanted. At some point, Nina decided to escape the Deep Realms and joined a vigilante group in Nord that stole from the rich and gave to the poor, effectively making her the Robin Hood of the Fire Emblem universe. She would spend some time with this vigilante group, traveling around Nord, targeting corrupt evil nobles that exploited the poor. As the group grew bolder and more reckless, they would eventually set their sights on a Norian mansion filled with precious cultural artifacts. However, the man in charge of the mansion suspected he would be a target, so he enlisted the help of Silas and Niles to help catch the thieves. Niles, being a former expert in breaking into mansions, used his knowledge to predict where the thieves would strike, and lay in hiding to catch one of them. Who he ended up catching, however, was not some common thug, but his own daughter. Upon seeing her father, Nina became furious and fled, taunting him that he would never be able to catch her. Little did she know that Niles brought Corin and the rest of the army with him. Inside the mansion, Corin's army clashed with Nina's vigilante band, and after a brief skirmish, they managed to push them out. While Nina attempted to gather what treasure she could before escaping, she too got herself caught and was brought to Niles after the battle was over. While Niles wanted to punish his daughter for her actions, he also decided that she could go free, but only if she decided to join up with Corin's army where he could keep an eye on her. Nina initially refused, as she wanted the owner of the mansion brought to justice, and after convincing Silas to look into it, she turned out to actually be correct. The noble had gathered his wealth by extorting and swindling the local populace of their savings. After this fact was brought to light and the noble brought to justice, Nina joined up with Corin's army, happy to see so many handsome males gathered in one place. As one might expect from the daughter of Niles, Nina is a huge pervert. She spent most of her days lurking in the shadows, stalking men, daydreaming about them getting busy with one another. When she isn't snooping around, she usually plays with puppets and dolls, and these games can often get quite sexual as well. She's fond of writing in her diary, and unsurprisingly, it too is filled with a lot of art of boys getting intimate with one another. A majority of Nina's support conversations revolve around her explaining her fetish to someone, or her getting caught while stalking or daydreaming, sometimes both. There's the occasional divergence, like in her support with Valoria, where she tries her hardest to get her friend to smile, or in her support with Dwyer, where she attempts to sneak up on him but repeatedly gets caught due to Dwyer's insane awareness. But for the most part, her supports are very perverted and fanservice oriented. Nina's relationship with her father Niles is a very conflicted and difficult one, mostly due to the nature of the Deep Realms and the way time works there. While Niles had all the best intentions putting her there, the end result was a daughter that grew up feeling neglected and unwanted. Niles is particularly angered by Nina's decision to be a thief, as while he was forced to steal to survive as a kid in the slums of Nor, Nina had the luxury of growing up without having to resort to such things, but decided to do it anyway, and this leads to the two of them having a big falling out. They do end up reconciling in the end, but they do so without directly saying they love each other, which really shows how similar they both are, as they both prefer not to get overly emotional, but rather let implications and innuendos speak for themselves. Many people have remarked on how incredibly creepy Niles and Nina's original Japanese A support is, with Nina talking about filling her father up with her warm essence, and Niles answering that he feels it penetrating deep into him. I don't know if this is them saying they love each other but with kinky innuendo since they're both perverts, but it's really weird, and according to people speaking Japanese, it's not a translation issue either. It's apparently just as creepy in its original language. The Treehouse localization team completely removed this line in the North American and European versions, and probably for a very good reason. Perverted fanservice aside, Nina is also a vigilante, and a very self-righteous one at that. In order to get a glimpse into this side of her, we have to take a look at Nina's support with Kana. In this conversation, we get a very interesting look into Nina's worldview, and that's actually what I will spend the rest of this segment focusing on. I am going to spend some time deconstructing the support because it is by far the most interesting one she has. In it, a young naive Kana is wondering why Nina resorts to stealing, as he heard from his parents that stealing is wrong and immoral. Nina then attempts to justify her actions to Kana with this sentence. You're right, stealing is wrong, but the world's a complex place. Some things are less wrong than others. Sometimes just doing things that look right will make the world worse, you know? In this world, doing the right thing doesn't always mean you'll be rewarded. In an imperfect world like this, you have to make imperfect decisions. Sometimes stealing is the best way you can help people. Nina's worldview is that of a vigilante anarchist, doing lesser evils to serve the greater good, sort of a the end justifies the means mindset. Nina puts herself above the law because she views the law as corrupt and flawed. She looks at the world full of rich people who, in her eyes, did not deserve their wealth, and thinks that said wealth is better off in the hands of the poor, and thus she takes it upon herself to forcefully break into the property of others to take away their livelihood and redistribute it to those she deems needs it more. What I find interesting about Nina is how her very own words that she uses to justify her own behavior contradict themselves in the same sentence. She says that sometimes doing things that look right can make the world worse, while ironically this is exactly what she risks doing by being a vigilante. When she decides to break into other people's property, steal their wealth, and hand it out to those she feels need it more, she risks doing the same thing she advocates against. Things that may look right to Nina in the moment may not be what will make the world a better place. And before someone says that Nina clearly knows what's best, she's a young teenage girl who spends most of her days stalking people and playing sex games with hand puppets. Would you trust this person with being the moral judge, jury, and executioner of what's right and wrong? I'm sorry, but I wouldn't. Nina then continues by saying that in an imperfect world, you must make imperfect decisions, which sounds like another poor excuse. Because Nina views the world as flawed, that means she allows herself to act in flawed ways, aka breaking the law. This is a classic excuse that you hear from a lot of criminals, especially after they're caught. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you should. Nina's worldview is, in my opinion, extremely naive and flawed by horrendous logic and poor self-justification, not to mention riddled with excuses. In my eyes, she's just a girl with daddy issues that takes her anger out on the world. Sure, her heart might be in the right place as she wants to help people, but the way she goes about it is extremely dumb. I realize that a lot of people might strongly disagree with this, especially some members of my younger audience that might have a more rebellious attitude towards society. If you think I'm wrong in calling Nina's worldview stupid, I'd certainly like to hear your arguments in the comment section below. I imagine it might be quite the heated debate, but that's what I love, so bring it on.
Oh, that was exciting.
According to the official Fates popularity poll, Nina is the most popular child character and the 10th most popular female character in Fates. In her Hoshiden Festival of Bonds DLC artwork, Nina is depicted with 2 right feet. This is most likely an artistical error. Nina is the first character in the Fire Emblem franchise who has a father capable of an S-rank support with another man, but ironically this support also prevents her from being born. Nina shares her English voice actress, Natalie Lander, with Fear and Elise.
You shouldn't ever feel bad about spending time with your guy friends. Really.
Nina has 2 unique endings, depending on whether or not she marries. She also has the standard 3rd ending of becoming the Queen of Vala if she marries male Corrin, but this is shared with almost every female in the game. If Nina stays single, she ends up forming her very own vigilante gang, but instead of breaking into mansions and taking people's stuff, she instead patrols the city streets at night, fighting crime and guarding the local populace. If she marries, however, she puts her vigilante acts to rest, and instead becomes a philanthropist, doing charity work and helping other people in need.
This isn't what I had in mind, but let's see what the future holds.
As with all child units, the stats and growth rates you see displayed here do not represent Nina's final stats in the game. To calculate her actual bases and growths, you'll need to add the bases and personal growth rates of Nina's mother and divide it by 2. Nina's base class is an outlaw, just like her father Niles, and she is very similar to her father in many ways, possessing great speed and a decent magic stat. This means that at her core, what she excels at the most is wielding the Shining Bow. With its 1-2 range and magic damage, it is extremely potent against most physical units, especially units like Armor Knights, Generals, and Great Knights. Her great magic also allows her to wield staves post-promotion and help out with healing. If you want Nina to excel at this role, pairing Niles up with a magic user like Nyx to max Nina's magic stat will really allow her to deal a tremendous amount of damage with a Shining Bow, but it will make her worse at dealing physical damage with regular bows. Mosu and Setsuna are also viable candidates to consider, as they will pass down the Archer class set, allowing Nina to pick up the Quick Draw and Bowfare skills, which will really maximize her damage output. Add Mosu's Master of Arms class into the mix, and you can even pick up Life and Death if you enjoy living on the edge, and then you can even throw in Aptitude to make Nina grow even better. Nina's high base speed gives her a lot of other flexible options if you want to try something different. Personally, I just really recommend sticking with the Adventure Shining Bow build, as it's just so great at what it does, but honestly, as with most other Fates child units, she has a vast array of options available to her and can thrive just as well as a physical unit. Build her any way you like. Nina's personal skill is Daydream. If Nina is directly adjacent to 2 male units, allies or enemies alike, who are both paired up in a guard stance, she will deal +2 damage and take -2 damage. The bonuses from this skill are very big, akin to that of the Inspiration skill, but it does have a very tedious requirement and forces you to be very mindful of your positioning to reap its benefits. If you have 2 male units in your army that usually fights paired up, simply have Nina tag along behind them at all times, and this skill will serve you quite well. It's far from the best personal skill in Fates, but also far from the worst. One thing that is quite obvious but still needs to be said to newer players is that if you are playing with a male Corrin, you have to be very careful to not unlock the S-rank support between Corrin and Niles if you want to see Nina in the game, as this S-rank support will make her paralog lost forever in your current save game, seeing as you can't kill off Corrin to break it since he is the main character. And this will also prevent Kana from being born as well, robbing you of 2 potential child units. Many players have expressed a lot of anger and frustration over Fire Emblem's first legit gay support having such a steep drawback, especially since it's said that Niles and Corrin ends up adopting 2 kids in their ending, meaning they could have easily implemented Nina into the game as an adoptive child unit. There really isn't that much else to say about Nina as a unit. She is competent at what she does, and got a decent personal skill, and is a completely serviceable child unit. Take good care of her, and don't snoop in her journals, and she will serve you quite well.
Done already?
Nina is, for the most part, a fanservice-oriented character. She is there to cater to a specific audience, and this is most likely why she's so insanely popular, seeing as it's a pretty huge demographic she's catering to, at least going by the amount of art you can find online. I did my research, no homo. While people who want to see same-sex relationships get more recognition in Fire Emblem may greatly enjoy this, I personally find that this gimmick is pushed so hard that it leaves very little room for other character traits. Roughly 80% of all of Nina's supports revolve around her fetish, with the few other support she has being charming but lacking in substance, with the exception being her support with Kana, which is the only one that really develops her character. While this conversation is a saving grace, it's far from enough to redeem her. I personally have very little patience for one-dimensional characters that only serve to fill a single niche, and this is for the most part what Nina exists to do. She's there to cater to a specific part of the audience, and, while other people might enjoy that, it does very little for me, so I rate her 2 out of 5 stars. When I first went over all the new units in Fates, Nina was one of those characters that immediately caught my eye. It might be my affinity for braided pigtails, but her design really struck a chord with me, and while I'm not rating a character's design based on how much I find them to be physically attractive, I do find her design to be adorable and insanely cute. While she does show a lot of cleavage, the rest of her attire isn't needlessly over-sexualized, which I'm actually quite surprised about, seeing as the rest of her character is already very fanservice oriented, but I'm still glad they didn't decide to go down that route. We got enough of those characters in Fates already. Either way, I find Nina's design to be absolutely gorgeous. 4 out of 5 stars. Rating child units in Fates is a pretty hard thing to do because they vary so much depending on who their parents are and how you choose to build them, not to mention they can join the story at completely different times depending on when you unlock the support, and they're also scaled up to the current level of your group. While the child units in Fates are far less overpowered than their Awakening predecessors, most of them turn out really great if you put a little bit of effort into them. I'd say that by default, unless there are some major deviations, I will most likely give the same rating to all the child units, 4 out of 5 stars.
Wow, I was just going to steal some of your stuff and leave, but I ended up having fun.
Thank you so much for watching this Fire Emblem character spotlight. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider helping out this video with a like, and let me know what character you want to see me feature in a future spotlight by leaving a comment below. I would like to give a big thank you to Probably a Filthy Weeb, who requested this spotlight of Nina alongside this drawing of Vika from Radiant Dawn as his silver tier Patreon reward. Yes, the drawing and spotlight does not in fact have to be of the same units, just letting you all know. Before we end this video, I want to give a massive shout out to my amazing Patreon supporters. You guys are the best and I really appreciate each and every one of you. You make it possible for me to produce all this Fire Emblem content for you all on a daily basis, especially now that YouTube is demonetizing videos left, right and center for seemingly no reason at all. If you become a Patreon supporter today, you get instant access to my Patreon-only Discord chat, the ability to participate in Patreon Hangouts, and ask questions from my Patreon Q&A videos. Also, if you become a silver tier Patreon, you can request your very own Fire Emblem character spotlight, alongside a drawing of your favorite Fire Emblem character done personally by my designer. You can check out our Instagram or Facebook page by clicking the link in the video description to see some of the work she's done previously. She is extremely talented. Also, my two script readers, Sonagi and Heliasan, help me with the fine-tuning of the script of the spotlight, along with Mecha, who also assists with correcting errors and mistakes. Anyway, that's all for now. If you want to see more spotlights, check out the playlist linked in front of you. There's also another direct link which will take you to the previous spotlight I did. Anyway, my name is Mangs, thank you for watching all the way to the end, you are a true fan. Don't forget to leave that like, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.